Hello and welcome back to week 5, where I'm joined again by Graham from Peninsula HR company. Today we're going to discuss how to protect your business and how to protect yourself. And we didn't get too many questions in on this, Graham. It sort of came in on just two questions, but there were so many times from several different people. So I'm going to read it out to you because it's fairly long. My employees have learned from a lot from working in my company, and I feel that I have equipped them with the skills to make a company successful. Is there any way to prevent them from leaving my company and joining my competitors or setting up on their own company with the same nature? And then following on from that, before I hand you the mic, question 2. In this industry, we often form bonds with our clients and they become very loyal. I'm afraid that a former employee may try to steal my client base. Is there any way I can prevent this from happening? So we got a lot of people asking questions around this topic.
Okay, yeah, and it's understandable that people want to protect their business that they've worked very hard to develop. So what we're talking about here really is this piece, I suppose, is if somebody, it maybe ties in a little bit last week, we were talking about the training piece and developing our staff and what then if they progress or move on to a competitor. So it does tie in with that, and we talked about there the training agreements and so on, having them in place. So in a similar mindset, I suppose, what you're looking at here is non-compete or restrictive covenants, is kind of the terminology you're looking at. So these non-compete clauses would be the type of thing that somebody would include in a contract of employment, or some people would just have them as a standalone document and they'd be that clear on it. I'll be honest, they're difficult to enforce in Ireland, because essentially what it is you're trying to stop somebody competing against you, but that marries with trying to also, not being in a position to stop somebody earning a living and going into gainful employment. So it can be difficult, which is why having a really good, tight, restrictive covenant or non-compete clause is very, very important. If somebody is just to kind of pull one off the internet or try draw one up themselves, where it's like, you just can't work in competition in the industry in Ireland, to me, that simply won't be enforceable. It won't stand up when it goes further or it's challenged. It's just too big. Whereas a comparison to that would be if you had a really good restrictive covenant, and maybe part of the restriction was that you can't work in direct competition within a 5-10 mile radius, whatever that might be, something like that again comes back to that word reasonable, to enforce it, that maybe then that is something, and it comes back into having your policies, procedures around protecting your own information, your own data as well, in terms of client lists, client contact information, all of that type of thing. So much of this comes back to documentation, having my policies and procedures in place, making sure you're comfortable with them yourself, and making sure your staff are aware of them, and that you and they know the potential implications of them. A lot of this comes back to a mindset of prevention as much as anything. So that you don't want to be in that situation. So the more people see these situations, the more then they're like, oh well, I just know I can't do that, and it can prevent them doing anything like that. Or if they're considering it, then it might mean them coming and talking to you, and a conversation might be had or whatever about it. But at least if you have that documentation in place, it gives you some bit of a comeback on it.
So am I correct when I say to the business owners that I work with, look, your database is probably your most important asset in your business? Am I also right when I say, if I go into a salon and give my name and my address and my contact details, and that's given in confidentiality, really, isn't it? Yeah. So if somebody's leaving, they have no business to go and download my information and take it to the next employer.
Absolutely.
And we need to make that clear.
Yeah, that very much comes into, and people will hear and see much more about it over the coming months, this GDPR, General Data Protection Regulations. So there's more and more being talked about it. We had a 2-year lead into it, so it's May 2018, and that's going to put a bit more of an onus even on people in terms of how we use our data, what data we have, how we protect it, and exactly like you're saying, particularly from customers coming in who there's an element of trust there that we're giving us, contact details and so on. So we need to protect that. We need to do all we can to protect it for them, but for ourselves as organisations as well, to protect ourselves. That is really, really important. That's our information. That's our intellectual property, essentially. That's the information we have. That's our database. And it's like in sales, in marketing, where people will talk about LinkedIn accounts and so on, where it's set up for the business, where they're like, well, that's the business's page, that's the business's contacts. It's not an individual if they go. But there's very little comeback unless you have really good, solid policies and procedures in place that then you can show, well, this person has breached this, and then you at least have a comeback. Or, like I said, I don't want to be talking too much about that where you're getting into cases and situations. What you really want to do is have them in place so that you're preventing having to go into a situation like that.
Right. All the feedback that we've been receiving over the last few weeks, people are really enjoying what we're speaking about and enjoying the content. However, people keep saying to me, Liz, where would I get time to put all those contracts, all those policies, all that in place? It all sounds very well, but I think people are a little bit overwhelmed and feel they would have to do it all themselves, which is why I'm really talking to you. They don't have to do it all themselves, do they? So would you mind just outlining, if someone was interested in working alongside you, what the benefits of that would be for them?
Absolutely, no problem. So obviously we mentioned that at each of the sessions and Avril's contact details have come up there as somebody that they can contact to kind of maybe even get out for an initial consultation to have a chat through and to talk through it in a little bit more detail, the types of things myself have talked about, Liz, over the couple of weeks. But essentially what you're looking at doing is we've made it sound maybe a little bit more straightforward than it is here, but getting those documents and particularly getting them up and running is the thing, and making sure you've got that level of protection, and then it's keeping them updated and keeping up to date. We've so many different pieces of legislation, so many different updates that come out every 2, 3, 6 months that we're trying to stay abreast of it. So it can be really, really difficult for people to do their normal job and to try to keep on top of this as well. So that's where the likes of ourselves and Peninsula come into it, where we can be that additional support. We can look after, we can draw up those documents together with you, with the information that you can give us. We can work with you in terms of tailoring that information, having the documentation in place, be that the contracts that are compliant, be it the policy handbook, which we've talked about is so important, and then those really, really important policies and procedures like the restrictive covenants, the non-compete, protecting your data, confidentialities, all those type of things can be looked after by people who have the expertise in that area. So it's not as daunting for them. They'll have conversations with you, support in terms of getting the documentation in place, and then it's more of an ongoing kind of keeping it up to date, an advice perspective that look, I have this bit of an issue, so there's the advice line there that's there as a support either. So there's lots of options from a documentation and from an advice perspective that can try and, I suppose, take that worry, that concern away to say, I don't really feel comfortable dealing with this, but at least I have somebody there as a support that is comfortable with it and I can have a conversation with.
Great, so what we're actually talking about then is for the small business owner who doesn't have time or the expertise to do all this, that they can actually outsource, like you're like a HR department.
Yeah.
And a funny thing happened to me a few weeks ago. I was actually in the airport at about 5 o'clock in the morning chatting away to somebody on your advice line, and somebody beside me said, like, who are you pestering? I said, they're not after the advice line. There's nobody else to talk to me. So just to make that point, that it is a 24-hour, 7-day week service. Right, now this all sounds... I know I just have to ask about the money, because a lot of people say to me, oh no, to outsource that, Liz, would just be so expensive. I know it's different, it obviously has to depend on the size of the business, but relative to the comfort, the peace of mind that somebody gets, is outsourcing HR to a company like yours, is it an expensive, or roughly, would you just talk to us about the money?
Yeah, I suppose in terms of it's really difficult to get into exact figures because it varies so much in terms of your salary, payroll, everything like that, the size of the business. So that will be tailored to fit. And we have different options there that are there as well in terms of the level of support. So an organisation might think that, okay, for whatever reason that one doesn't suit, but this does suit. So we very much from the teams would work from the outset and trying to put some proposals together that would work or give an organisation something to consider anyway in terms of the various levels of support or business protection they're looking for. But the cost is one thing, I suppose, that's there, but it would be broken down into manageable monthly repayments and so on right through. So it's just there, it's almost like on retainer, it's there over a 1, 3, 5 year period, whatever might work. That's one thing, but I think you mentioned yourself, that peace of mind and that time, that's the massive win, and that's that massive takeaway that's there, that I have that support that I know I can turn to somebody, or even just at the outset to get things set up and running from the outset so that I'm starting off on the right footing. Now we're going to do it from here and work from there from that support. That's that key piece. But in terms of the costs, there would be very much a tailored proposal put together with plenty of different options over the duration of the agreement or the types of service that will be provided as well.
Okay, so it's affordable.
It is.
And I'm assuming all Liz McKeon contacts can get a discount.
I'm sure they can, yes, absolutely.
Providing
they give good feedback to the sessions.
Okay. Thank you so much. We found the last 5 weeks. I know people have found it really, really helpful. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll be back in touch soon. Thank you.
Thank you.